Despite losing captain Martin Odegaard, Arsenal have continued to still perform at the very highest level and are still unbeaten. And after a brilliant win against PSG in the Champions League, it is quite clear that the team is still thriving. One of the main players for that is Leandro Trossard, who yet again filled in for Odegaard in a brilliant fashion like he did at the weekend. Leandro Trossard has become one of the most important players for Arsenal right now. But why is that? Let's get into it. When Odegaard got injured, there was a lot of upset fans because that was potentially Arsenal's most important player. Out of the press, he was the main presser of the team, and in the press, he was the main player that controlled the ball the long time and gave Arsenal more pressure on the ball. Now, since he has left, that has definitely gone. Other than the Leicester game, even against PSG, Arsenal had less possession and less of the ball, but they are still getting great results and still playing very well overall, showing they can adapt to play styles without Martin Odegaard in the future. One of the main reasons for that as well has been Trossard's inclusion in the team. Other than his red card against Man City, in which I think he was playing well before that, he has been one of the key players in the game against Leicester on the weekend and now this PSG game in midweek. And from a position standpoint, it is very different to what Odegaard was doing. Trossard has come into that midfield role, but he isn't playing the same role that Odegaard played in there, and we're usually having a double pivot between Rice and Partey behind them. This is meaning that Trossard and Havertz are kind of playing in a 4-4-2, or one of them is playing in front of the other and they're playing off each other, but most of the time they both have three roles. This means that they can help progression and come deeper when they need to, but also be in the box for the key chances that Arsenal create. It gives many options having a tall striker and having an agile small striker that is lethal in the box. Now against PSG, I think we saw this as well. Partey and Rice kept dropping deeper to evade the PSG press, and they were so fluid in which one went and which one stayed near that PSG was struggling to keep up with the space. When David Raya came in for a +1 as well, Arsenal had an extra man over, and this was usually Trossard breaking away from his midfield position and going deep on that left side. This allowed Arsenal to actually get out of the half and bypass a lot of the PSG players. Now tactically, this is very smart. It lets Trossard be the main man that can get out, and he is probably one of the best players in the Arsenal team on the turn and breaking away. But it also means that Marquinhos is now in no man's land. He is sort of marking no one because he is supposed to occupy that Trossard striker position, and when striker Trossard moves all the way out to the left side, Marquinhos isn't going to follow because obviously that would lead to a lot of gaps on the inside where Martinelli can run through. This meant when Trossard received the ball, he had time and space to be able to pass the ball into midfield, where usually you would see Calafiori or even Rice push up from midfield with this fluid movement to see who's in the right position, and it kept allowing Trossard to also pass it on the inside to Martinelli, who is more reactive than the PSG players. This allows that left half space to basically be occupied by no one because Marquinhos isn't going to push up without his defenders there, and there's no one for him to mark in there, which kept getting Arsenal into great positions. You got one where they work it well to Saka, who shoots over, and there's one which they obviously score from. This one's a little bit different, however, because Trossard actually baits the player in. The player does get a lot closer to him on this side, but Trossard has the ability to run past this player in this moment. This is a great initiative to just go past him. He's also in a beneficial position, so the player is coming from behind him, which means he'll probably end up fouling him unless he makes an incredible tackle, and Trossard just keeps running with the ball and does brilliant to get the ball up the pitch. Now here they actually occupy the left half space to try and block his passing runs in between the lines. This means they don't want him passing the ball across, which had already happened a few times at this point, and Zaire Emery actually does well here to get back and kind of stop that happening. But Marquinhos is still not pushed up to Trossard. Trossard's in an unfamiliar position for Marquinhos. He doesn't want to go into that area, so he's relying on Zaire Emery here to actually defend his one-on-one marker, or at least make sure he can't get a ball through, and he's relying on Hakimi to try and make sure Martinelli can't get in behind because there's always an option there as well. Now what Trossard does here is incredibly intelligent. He waits for the ball, he cuts the ball back, and you can see he looks up straight at Havertz. He wants to do that through ball to Havertz straight away, but he actually does a stutter cross, which does trick out the PSG players because they're mostly ball watching, which actually gives Havertz enough time to get into the box and make the run. The defense at this point is completely split apart. Obviously Mendes has had to come all the way over because Saka has come inside, so he's in the box now, but he's not someone who's really going to be amazing in the air. Marquinhos is yet again still in no man's land. He's got no one to pick up. His player is literally deep with the ball, and in the end Trossard has that space to do that brilliant ball, and Havertz gets the head on it before Donnarumma. It's a brilliant goal that he has created there, Trossard, by actually doing things a lot different. Another underrated quality about Trossard is that considering he's not the tallest player, he's not the most physical player, he's another one of them players that really is good with the body he has. He's really good at shielding the ball a lot of the times, and he will put a foot in there, but more importantly he will hold up the ball. When Arsenal clear the ball when they're trying to get out of a low block, people like Havertz are probably more important, but sometimes if it's a headed chance, he'll be the one back there. With Trossard coming deeper, he can always pick the ball up and pass pass it off and usually run in behind, which gives Arsenal even more options, as well as Havertz. And I think the connection that these two have had specifically has been brilliant recently. And we see that connection here really, where Arsenal, the ball is flashed straight in from Saka from Partey's pass into Trossard, who actually peels off his man marker here to get the ball in there. The touch he does is incredible to Havertz, yet again putting him in behind, and Havertz puts the ball into Martinelli, who unfortunately doesn't score, but it was great effort. And this is what Trossard, I think, brings to the team. He's not the most technically sound player. He is pretty decent. He's not the best in many ways outside the box. I think that's been spoke about before, but he just does the simple things that ticks things along for Arsenal and has incredible movement off the ball, which is incredibly important. He finds pockets in midfield where he drags in the wingers and drags in the centre backs to actually come towards him, and he'll just calmly keep the ball and put it out wide. There's many times you'll see Trossard actually give Saka the space and give Saka the freedom to make that 1v1 happen, and won't stand too close to him, will always be there if he needs to be, but not necessarily forcing it too much. And Trossard's passing is actually really good, and it was good in this PSG game. There's many times where they did actually later on in the game try and press him down the wing, and he would quickly put a first time ball over to Havertz and work brilliantly. His work as well with the left hand side in specifically more than the right hand side is brilliant. The fact that he can play off of Martinelli and Calafiori, and he operates the roles that they're not in. He doesn't mind coming deeper to pick the ball up, he doesn't mind making that run in behind, or he doesn't mind sitting in the middle and being that pass over. He can do everything in that role, and honestly helps the progression a lot down that side. And maybe in this situation right now with Arsenal's midfield, he is kind of the third man in there, so kind of has to help, but sometimes he is a +1. Sometimes you have Rice even come over, and then you've got them trio going, and you've got Trossard that can come over and help even more. And that's why actually I think the left side's been so much more functional recently, because Trossard seems much more comfortable on that side of coming over and putting balls in. And it's not only about them balls, which I think is more important, it's the fact that Trossard is one of the most capable players at doing transitional switches in the game. Arsenal have struggled to really do quick switches, I think, for the last few years, which has slowed down the attack, but that is not the case this season. Obviously the two sides with the triangles on either side work a lot closer, and they have Partey in the middle where Arsenal could have sustained possession, which actually makes them a lot quicker, and with the fact that they have easier roles with Havertz and Trossard sort of moving into any space off the ball, which do help actually create this. But Trossard is also a main advocate of one of the main switches for Arsenal, specifically against Leicester, but he also did this a few times against PSG. He'd pick the ball on the inside, even on the right or left side, and actually just go quickly over to the other way. This gives 1v1s for the wingers that we have, Martinelli and Saka, and allows people to play off that, such as Calafiori and Timber coming in for the overlap. Trossard has a really good technical ability, but he's also very quick at doing things. He doesn't faff around and usually gets the end product there, which I do think is something that Arsenal needed in that midfield overall, and I think Trossard has been really good coming in for the missing of Martin Odegaard. And Trossard isn't going to be someone that makes a huge amount of tackles, but his on the ball work, especially against PSG, was really good. He had 3 touches in the opposition box, 2 out of 2 dribbles, 3 passes into the final third, 1 cross, 2 out of 3 accurate long balls, and created the chance which got us the goal. And compare that to the Leicester game, he also made 2 out of 4 successful dribbles, 3 passes into the final third, made 1 cross, 3 accurate long balls, which I think is very important for them switches, and made 2 chances created. He gets into the right areas and is good enough to finish off chances, but I think now with this new role he's kind of developed, he's becoming an efficient player from outside the area and in deeper areas for Arsenal to get them up the pitch. Obviously it's not ideal, we'd rather Trossard not be in that position, I'd say, but I do think he has been incredible coming in and deserves even more credit for that 27 mil that they spent on him. I know he's been incredible before, 17 goals last season, which is nothing to look at weirdly. That's a brilliant stat, and this season I think he'll get even more goals and assists, because I think he's really turning into a great player here. And let me know what you guys think about Trossard. Do you think he has deserved his spot in the team and it will continue to be like that for the coming future, or do you think now Mourinho's fit that Trossard's spot is going to be gone and Mourinho will come in for him? Thank you guys for watching as always. If you want to watch my video about Mourinho yesterday where I speak about his debut, please go and watch that, and if not, I'll see you in the next one.